Welcome to Work in Progress, Conversations with Creators. I'm your host, Logan Roy Speitman. Today with me on the program, I have Nicolás Lell Benavides, who's a composer who just wrote an opera about the civil rights icon, Dolores Huerta. I hope that you enjoy.
If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
All right, Nicolás, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm excited about the new opera that you wrote.
Yes.
That's about Dolores Huerta. So tell us about it.
So the opera Dolores is about the civil rights activist icon Dolores Huerta and the mark she basically left on American history. It's not a documentary. We focus on 1968, and there's a lot of things that happened in 1968. The farm workers had been striking for 3 years. So she, with Cesar Chavez, Larry Itliong, founded the United Farm Workers. And after 3 years of grueling strikes, they recruited Bobby Kennedy to their cause. And they threw all their weight behind getting him elected. And on the eve of their celebration of winning the California primary, they thought their strike was going to end. He was, of course, assassinated.
Right.
And the course of American history was changed. Richard Nixon won the presidency, famously hostile to unions and labor. And they persevered for 2 more years. And the opera is really about what is it like to go through a crisis of faith and to choose to make sacrifices to get what you need for the sake of justice. And I think it's an amazing period of American history, an amazing period of heroism.
Yeah.
And I always felt like it would be a great story to put on the stage. So here we are.
Yeah. So it was your idea you had for the...
It was. It's an idea I've had for years. Mm-hmm. Even before I wanted to be a composer, I just was fascinated with this moment in history, what it would be like to go through that much loss and then to emerge stronger than ever. And then my life switched. I became a composer. I began writing music, and I kept sort of pitching this idea on the back end to people. Like, one day I'll be good enough to write an opera. And then one day I pitched it to the right person, and they said, yeah, maybe we should do this opera. Here we go. We found the right writing partner with Marilla Martin Cook, my librettist. And then about 5 years ago, the project just took off, and I've been working on it for about 5 years.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And you're working closely with the librettist?
We work super closely. Like, even yesterday, we were on the phone making small changes for the Albuquerque premiere.
Oh, wow.
So we really care about the quality of the piece on the stage. Yeah.
So it really is a work in progress. So you're on the right show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been quite a process. And what are some of the challenges that you faced in kind of bringing this vision to life?
Well, opera is an interesting art form. It's one that I'm new to, actually. I mean, relatively new, not now, but I didn't know about opera until I was 19, right?
And this is the first one you've written?
It's my third opera.
Okay.
That I've written. But
what was the first one?
Sure. The first opera was Pepito, commissioned by the Washington National Opera, and it's a 1-act comedy. Same librettist. It's where we met. We were paired together.
Oh, great.
For a project. Our second opera, Tres Minutos, commissioned by Music of Remembrance, which is an amazing organization with a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. May that continue in this country.
Yeah.
And it was an opera about the border crisis and how 2 siblings were granted a 3-minute meeting through the border angels on the U.S.-Mexico border and the sacrifices that they made to be together just to hold each other for 3 minutes. And then this is our third completed opera. We have another one that's in progress that kind of stalled when this one got picked up. And this opera, of course, is about Dolores. And it's our first full evening-length opera that's a little over 2 hours of music, with intermission and everything.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I'm sorry I cut you off, but you were telling me about sort of the challenges and something about sort of the nature of opera.
Yeah. So opera is an amazing art form for exploring emotion. And it is not an amazing art form for exploring tiny minutiae of details like a documentary, right? And when you choose to do an opera about what is essentially kind of a documentary subject, you're faced with a lot of hard questions. You cannot deliver information that quickly. Opera is a huge ship. There's an orchestra, there's a chorus, there's costumes, lighting. Somebody has to sing a song about how they feel for 3 or 4 minutes, right? You can't be like, this date, then this happened, then the sheriff said this. So the most difficult thing was just choosing how to tell the story in a succinct and clear way that felt operatic, where we could get to know the characters at an emotional level and not at a factual level. The facts are present and they're important, but we had to make certain. I'll give you an example. Actually, we had to make certain concessions. Like, for example, factually, the grape strike happened for 3 years. The workers stopped working on the vineyards. And then when Nixon was elected and that wasn't working, they had the grape boycott, where they got the national movement of people to stop buying grapes, which people still talk about today. It was a huge thing all over the country. In our opera, we put the two together. It's the grape strike and boycott. The timeline doesn't quite work out, but it's too hard to explain the intricacies politically of why there was one and then the other.
Yeah.
We really wanted emotionally for us to understand that they were sacrificing something. They were fighting for something. Similarly as well, just a spoiler, I know people know Dolores Huerta is associated with Si Se Puede. We do have her say that in the opera at one point, even though she didn't coin that phrase until the early 70s, right?
Right.
But it sort of was such a release. It was so cathartic to see her come into her own, you know? The story is kind of an origin story, the way that we wrote it, but really she had already been doing this for 10 years by the time the story began. And did it for 50 more years after, right? Still, she's 95 and she's still going.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of interviewing her earlier this year. It was pretty incredible, and just seeing like how she's walking around without any help.
Oh,
and I saw her speak to a group of students and lead them in chants, and she's got that strong voice. And I mean, let's hope we lived that long and that we're still so kind of strong, such a strong presence at that age,
I think she's a testament. You got to be committed to something to live that long.
Yeah.
You got to have a reason.
Did you work with her at all on this project?
Yes. So we are related. We are distant cousins. Technically, because I had to fact check myself before going on with a journalist, we are second cousins twice removed. But realistically, big Hispanic families never use those.
Sure.
It's just all primos, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we were cousins. I grew up around her, and we secured life rights, and we interviewed her for the project. But she was very hands off, and like she understood a piece for the stage has to exist to serve the stage.
Yeah.
It's not a documentary. It really is an emotional exploration. And so she offered some feedback, but not a lot. She was very much like, you do what you need to do to tell the story. And she had one request, which was every opportunity should be an organizing opportunity. She wanted people to know that when the opera ended, that they can organize themselves and that people have power when they come together. And that was her biggest request when we wrote this piece.
Oh, that's good. So you have something kind of like an ask at the end? Or
No, we don't. No. I think that'd be too humorous. But we wanted to show the power of people coming together.
Yeah.
I think by leading through example, showing that the protagonist, in this case, Dolores, Cesar Chavez, and Larry Itliong, they don't win concessions from growers, or they don't win for the United Farm Workers because they three are just straight up heroes who just went into battle, like Apollo or something, like some Greek hero that just slays all the enemies. No, their power comes from the people. So the opera is all about them. Coalition building, reaching out, grabbing the hand of Bobby Kennedy, and then grabbing the hand of a farm worker, and then sort of putting those two symbolically together and saying, what can we do when we're together? Finding the United Auto Workers, bringing them into the fold. Their power is amassing people and having them realize their own power. So that's their superpower in our opera.
Yeah. So is there a chorus?
There is a chorus, yeah. Oh my God. Could you imagine doing an opera about unions and farm workers and having no farm workers?
I would think you'd have to, yeah.
Actually, it's a little funny story behind that. The original commission was not for chorus, the people paying for it. And we were whining and complaining about that. And the very first meeting, we were ready to pitch, like, we need a chorus. This would be insane.
Yeah.
And he cut us off. He's like, don't even say anything. I already know. I'm going to get you a chorus. I already know what this meeting's about. I thought about it too. You got to do it. We'll pay for it. So they let us be their first ever commission. This is with West Edge Opera, to use a chorus in the orchestra and in the opera. So it was a big moment for us.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And what you were saying earlier, I mean, I think people understand the kind of need for poetic license, and even in like a biopic, in films about there's gonna, you have to compress events, maybe sometimes even take a couple historical figures, make them one character, because like you said, you try to kind of get the history perfect. I mean, it's going to be, like 12 hours long and unwatchable, maybe, right?
If you're lucky. If you're lucky, it'll just be 12 hours long.
Yeah. I mean, even like I've been going to all the Santa Fe operas this season, and I just saw the Wagner one, Die Walküre or Die Walküre, anyway. And, that's like a lot of exposition,
Oh, yeah.
Like he's really heavy on the exposition, and it's kind of like if you don't know the story, it's a little, you got to really like try to pay attention,
Oh, totally.
Whereas other operas, it is more about the emotion and I think that I agree with you that that's what opera does really well, is kind of conveying those deep emotions, So, yeah, I mean, like, what sort of, you mentioned a couple, but what are some of the moments that you're focused on in this opera?
So we're really focused on the scene one is one of my favorite things that I've ever written. It's nonstop for like 30 plus minutes. It doesn't have any breaks because I wanted to bring us up to speed with the 3 years of exhaustion. And I do that by having, I do that along with the librettist Morella, by having the singers just work their butts off on stage. They are moving from location to location. The music is fast, it's relentless. I think the music is very groovy and like danceable. Not that people should be standing up and dancing in the audience, but I think it's a lot of dance forms. As an homage to Dolores, who herself loves dancing and wanted to be a dancer at one point. And they are just getting sweaty and working hard so that by the time we finally get to meet the villain, which his name is Tricky Dick, he's kind of a play on Richard Nixon.
Right.
We are exhausted and we really, really want a way out. We need for there to be a solution to our problem, which is the farm workers are suffering.
Yeah.
And I loved trying to recreate that feeling on stage, like the way that they're exhausting themselves working and protesting and chanting and holding signs and being met with resistance and violence. I loved painting that picture. Tricky Dick is a fun character. He's kind of an amalgamation of a few politicians, not just Richard Nixon, who were famously anti-union, including the governor of California at the time. I think it was Ronald Reagan at the time. But at the very least, we use Ronald Reagan's words as well. But it's all in the Tricky Dick format, and he has a different style of music. Like he has like a Viennese waltz because he was a very traditionalist. He has 12-tone serialism to show the two-facedness of his political ambition. And then Dolores, she draws from different art forms. She has like mariachi music and jazz and funk. A little bit of funk. I played in a funk band for a while, but I would say funk. Actually, don't have too high expectations for funk. That's a bit excessive. And she
but you brought in a little bit,
a tiny bit,
a little touch
with the syncopated bass lines,
Yeah.
And then she also has one of my favorite moments that she does is she sings a prayer the night before the election, and I borrowed essentially a plain chant, a Marian antiphon, one of the oldest forms of written music. And I adapted it in a modern context, like very sort of Benjamin Britten-esque, I think, to accompany her prayer. So it's based on an old Gregorian plain chant, but I think it sounds really modern, almost like a Barber adagio for strings or something, where it's really lush. I harmonize it in my own way, but it really runs the gamut from Gregorian plain chant to like minimalism in terms of the fighting styles and music that they are accompanied by. And it has an electric guitar and saxophone. I tried to throw in some wild card instruments into the orchestra so that we get that modern context. It doesn't feel like an opera that could have been written 100 years ago.
Yeah, I like that. And I know music was important to her. I know, she's like friends with Joan Baez and kind of the folk music. And I mean, it sounds like, all the various inspirations you're drawing on would make sense with her inspirations as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
How did you like get into music in general? Like, were you always like as a little kid? Were you musical?
I was always very musical as a little kid. I didn't initially want to pursue music professionally. So as a kid, I sang and played the saxophone in like the church choirs, just down in Alameda, actually, in the Nativity. And I played with my grandfather. He was an accordionist. And I learned on the sax, and he played accordion, and I played by ear. We played like rancheras and corridos. His name was Eddie Garcia, and he actually was inducted into the New Mexico Music Hall of Fame just a couple years ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
He
passed away. Yeah, but it's okay. Sorry. He lived to be in his 90s, or he lived to be 90, which was like pretty wild. We should all be so lucky.
Of course. Yeah.
And he left a huge impression. And then I went to school. I wanted to be a jazz saxophonist because that's what I did in high school. And my parents said, that's a crazy idea. You should probably choose something else. So I tried to do the sciences because I like science. And I just, the draw from music was too great. Even though I was at a not music school for undergrad, I ended up taking music minor classes and I just got more and more consumed. And I actually didn't know anything about classical music till I was about 18 or 19. And I'm one of those weirdos who went to an orchestra concert and an opera concert. And I was like, this is amazing. I sat in the front row. Like there was like hundreds of people performing at once. It was loud. There was costumes and lights. It was extravagant and spectacular, and it was in real time. And I'd never seen anything quite like that.
Yeah.
And so I went hard, and I ended up doing all the way through my doctorate in music, actually in classical music. But I really did a hard turn towards concert music and opera. And then I kind of the past few years have kind of come back to telling a lot of stories about the American Southwest, stories that I don't see on the major concert stages from LA to New York.
Yeah.
There are some composers who explore Latinidad in their music, and they should always be lauded and praised. But I'm so proud to be part of that movement of finding stories in the American Southwest that are worth telling.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, you brought kind of your own early experiences with music into the classical world, and it seems like you're kind of melding that in a way.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Like stuff that you know. When did you kind of get that idea that you could, because I feel like maybe at first you were like, oh, you were excited about classical music and you thought, oh, this is my new thing. But then when did you get the idea like, oh, I can actually bring my own traditions and culture into this and meld it?
Not originally. Originally, I will admit, shamefully, I bifurcated my mind. I would come home in the summers and I'd play in prog rock bands. I toured with the funk band. I played with my grandfather, folk music. And then in school, it was all like Beethoven, Mozart, who I couldn't even tell you who they were until I was like 18 or 19, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the classical music was the exotic foreign music that I had never heard before.
Right.
And so I dove in completely with both feet. I had such amazing professors in undergrad who never shamed me for being naive, who never criticized me for not knowing. I just had a policy of, if I don't know, I'll just say, raise my hand. I don't know. Tell me, who is Maurice Ravel? Never heard of him. What should I listen to? I was always eager. And then when I really got my fill, by the time my master's was finishing up in classical composition, I started looking around and the pieces I was writing were like, very classical in form. And I just started to feel a little bit of a homesickness, actually, of like, where's the stuff that meant a lot to me? I rebelled against my youth of the things that I did.
Right.
And then, of course, like all of us, sort of, it's like a boomerang over time. You kind of come back to it and think, well, actually, there's a lot of value in like the corridos of the Southwest. Like there's actually a ton of value in the way people play music. Yeah. The way there's sort of a bard's way of storytelling. Like I love that. I love how, you have like like Assassino. You have like a song about an assassin, right? And there's like these vagabonds, and modern pop music doesn't really do that. But what does do that is old classical music. If you sing old art songs, you're pretending to be some vagabond, like Ray Fawn Williams, like the vagabond, right? You're pretending to be a thief. The singer gets to portray a character. And pop music's really about autobiographical, which I love. I love pop music. But I was hungry for that storytelling capacity. And concert music seemed to actually go really well, classical music, I should say, with corridos, rancheras, with jazz. I'm not the first to do this. Lots of people have done this. It's an obvious choice. But I wanted to try my hand at telling stories that I wasn't seeing on stage. And if I was going to be a working artist, I wanted to be the kind of artist who was adding something new to the ecosystem of what people could see and hear.
Yeah. And you said you're not the first, but were you aware of any of the others until you started doing it? I mean, like, were you inspired by anyone in particular? I was
inspired by a few people. Truthfully, you do not study those people very much in school. And like the textbooks really focus on, I would say, like the dead European, mostly male composers, right? During the end of my undergrad and into my master's, I started to learn about other composers that I found really exciting, like Gabriela Lena Frank, who's a Peruvian-American composer, multicultural, writes amazing tone poems about visiting Peru, and these incredibly evocative pieces that are just so full of storytelling. Like her Leyendas is one of my favorite pieces. I love her Quixotadas, a string quartet exploring Don Quixote, which is such a funny thing. But it's really brilliant work. And she's written an opera about Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera called El Último Sueño de Frida y Diego. And I loved that opera, seeing it go up on stage. It's going to the Met this year, which is exciting. Yeah. And then I met other composers who were my age or older, who were exploring Latinidad or cultural movements. And I realized that they just weren't getting the same airtime as everybody else. But that didn't mean that they weren't doing anything of less value. Actually, in some ways, it was really brave of them to try. So I started to model myself after composers like that.
Yeah. I feel like Opera Southwest is like doing a lot of productions like this, right? I mean, they seem like one organization that's really... Is this with Opera Southwest?
It is with Opera Southwest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just waiting for you to finish your question. Yeah. It's with Opera Southwest. Sorry, my face is weird.
No, it's so, I mean, what's it been like working with them?
I mean, it's been great. Opera Southwest, I mean, to their credit, I didn't even pitch it to them. As the story goes, Tony Zancanella, their executive director, was at a conference at the same time as Mark Krashinsky, the general director of West Edge Opera in Oakland. And he mentioned he was doing this opera, and apparently Tony was just like, stop everything. Like, we're going to do this opera. Like, how do we get involved? Because we're on, the National Hispanic Cultural Center is on Avenida Dolores Huerta, right? Right,
yeah.
He was like, there's no more appropriate opera to do in this city and state. And I don't even think Tony knew I was from Albuquerque, from New Mexico. I think he just genuinely wanted to do it. Because I hadn't met him before. I left when I was 18, right? And I'm back all the time, but still. And I think that takes a lot of bravery, actually, for an opera company to do something that is non-traditional, to do something that is a brand new piece, because brand new pieces don't always do well. And it's not always a reflection on their quality.
Yeah.
They're difficult to market. They're difficult to get people in the seat to listen to. They're difficult to get people to appreciate. I mean, when I'm competing with Traviata, people who go to Traviata have heard it 1,000 times, have their favorite singers, can list their first performances. They're going like somebody goes to a baseball game. You know how the structure of the game is going to work. You're there to see how that star performs in that moment, right? Within the construct of the game. Opera is actually a lot like sports in that regard, usually. When it does new work, it's more like Broadway musicals, where you're pitching the story, you're pitching the theme, you're pitching the production. And opera audiences aren't used to being marketed to that way. So it takes a lot of bravery from a company to say, let's take a chance. It's going to be expensive for us. My piece... This opera is huge. It's got a chorus. It's long. It's expensive. It requires extra hires. Mm-hmm. The costume design is like incredible. It looks like they're straight out of 1968. It costs a lot of money, you know. So it's a chance, and I'm really happy that they're taking it on, because I can't think of a better place to premiere it than my hometown, right?
No, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, you know, they do like a parade for her every year, and I mean, she's, you know, it's like it's the place for her, you know. I think it's great that we're having it here, that we get to experience it, and yeah, I do think that they take a lot of chances on new operas, you know, unusual, interesting operas, as well as reviving forgotten, important, you know, Spanish language operas as well. So. No, that's fantastic. So you said, you know, opera is still fairly new for you. What were you doing kind of right before that?
I know. I guess, I don't know if I misspoke. I mean, I guess I'm 37 now, and I guess I started listening to opera when I was 20. I think I felt new for me because I didn't listen to it growing up.
Got it.
I always feel like an underdog, like I'm playing catch up. But I guess at this stage, I've been working with a lot of opera companies, so it's not that new for me anymore.
So new,
but yeah, I should be clear. But culturally, it's new for me.
Yeah,
you know. Before writing opera, I mean, when I became a composer in my 20s, when I learned that you could even do that, I knew I wanted to write an opera one day. But then I learned about all the things that go into it.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I had to carve out all of those skills piece by piece. So I had to learn how to write for the voice. I was a singer, but to write for singers is different. So I studied for a long time writing art songs, choral pieces. Then I had to get better at orchestrating. You know, so I wrote for orchestras and chamber ensembles, different groups from one player to the New York Phil. You know, I've had giant to small pieces. Right. And then I had to write pieces that explored storytelling, instrumental and with vocals. So instead of just like a single choral piece that's really well written, what about a collection of art songs that tells an entire story? Or an orchestra piece that maybe doesn't have words, but can evoke certain emotions and paint certain textures. And then I wrote progressively longer operas. So the 22-minute opera was my first, then the 45-minute opera. Then I wrote a half an hour of an opera, 2 half-an-hours of different operas in progress that are currently on ice because Dolores required my full attention.
Sure.
And then finally, this 2-hour opera of Dolores. So I didn't just dive in. I kind of, it was one of the longest planned things I've done in my entire life.
Yeah.
To know that I needed these skills to do it. And I assisted people, other premieres.
Right.
I assisted composers in the theater where I would sit there with a score, listen to the orchestra, take notes, give them feedback on balance, but really I was just paying attention, like what's working in the space. Like if the flute plays this, can you hear it? If the singer sings a long held note, how does it decay in the space, you know? Those assistantships proved at the Glimmerglass Festival in upstate New York, proved to be hugely helpful for me. know how the stage actually comes together.
No, I mean, that's the smart way to do it. You sort of like I have to learn voice. I have to learn how to compose for these instruments, and you kind of do it piece by piece. I thought at one point I wanted to be a novelist. So I was like, let me try to write a novel. And probably I should have started with short stories,
Well, you say smart. I also, my hand was forced. It's not like anybody was offering me an opera commission.
Yeah, I guess that's...
So if somebody offered me an opera commission when I was 20, I probably would have done it, not proudly said, no, I got to learn first. But since nobody was offering me any money to write any music, I thought, well, I'll write a song.
You go step by step. Yeah. But now you feel like you were sort of prepared for this then, I guess.
I did. I mean... Yeah. I was prepared for to write the music and to the mechanics of writing an opera. What I wasn't prepared for was the immediate pressure of, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? This isn't a made up story. This is a real person's history and story. Like, how do we tell it properly? But I was a bit comforted knowing that this was way lower stakes than striking for 3 years or 5 years in total, right? Like, if she can manage a grape strike and boycott with no precedent before that, and emerge on the other side with full faith that she could pull it off, then I could do a little art project for 5 years and have a lot of faith that I could pull it off too. I actually drew a lot of inspiration from her herself. And once I got going, once I was in the day-to-day work and I had planned it all out, it was hard work, but it wasn't nearly as scary. Once you get your hands with anything, right? If you're gardening, rebuilding a car engine, you're outside just doing a project, you're building something for the first time, you just do it piece by piece.
Yeah, but there is that extra level of especially writing about someone who's not only a historical figure, but who's still alive and, is probably going to, see it.
She did see it.
She did see it.
Yeah, we premiered it in Oakland a few weeks ago.
So what did she say? What was her response?
Well, I don't think I breathed the entire time. And I intentionally didn't want to sit with her because I was like, I need her to make up her own mind about the piece. I need her to have her own space. Plus, I think I would have a heart attack if I was next to her. So I told the ticketing office, put me a few rows back so that I could be away. And then I saw her after for the bows, and she was smiling, and all my worries melted away.
Yeah.
Like, she was so happy, and we talked a lot about it, and she seemed really like she liked the piece a lot. And in fact, she liked it so much that she came back the next week.
Oh wow!
She wasn't supposed to come to the second performance, and she came again, brought more of our family, and was so excited to show it to everybody. And I mean, no matter what any critics or anybody says, which luckily they've been nice to me, but no matter what anybody says, the fact that she likes it has put me and Morella immensely at ease.
Yeah. She's sort of the most important audience.
She is the singular most important audience. So if she doesn't like it, I don't know what I would do. She said she might try to come to Albuquerque as well to see the show here.
Yeah. And when is that going to be?
So it'll be at the National Hispanic Cultural Center, October 26th, October 31st, and November 2nd. And single tickets are on sale now. They just went on sale a few days ago. And I've heard from Tony that actually it's selling pretty well. So
So get your tickets fast.
Get your tickets. I'd love to see you all there. I mean, I'm so excited to return home to have a show here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, is it going to go anywhere else?
It is. So after this, it's going to go to San Diego Opera, which is the biggest co-producer, and the Broad Stage in Santa Monica. And then I can't say who yet, but a lot of people have been asking about doing it in future seasons. So I think it'll go to a few other cities after this. But this is the most intimate space you could see it in. The Hispanic Cultural Center Theater. Like, if you want to see this opera in the most intimate way possible, this is the theater to see it in, because you're going to see their facial expressions. You're going to be close enough to the action. You're not going to be in the nosebleeds of a large hall. It's going to be a great space to see this show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has really been a pleasure, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.